Darkness Prevails in the afternoon today. On the Ghost Story channel Darkness Prevails, we are pleased to send to our listeners the story of the Dog's Cradle Dao read by Darkness Prevails. Don't forget to join the Japanese gift program when registering for the new channel of Darkness Prevails. Wish you all good luck. In the summer of 2008, that year's son started to go to the class of the Spider and got a month off like every year. Does the Yard plan to go back to see Noi with his parents yet? Powder has a long trip before entering the extra study program to prepare for the new school year every year. During the summer in Tet, his parents let him go back to his paternal hometown to visit his grandparents. Therefore, in his hometown, Sun also had friends. Although they only got to hang out once or twice a year, the relationship between him and these friends was very good. Among his friends at his hometown, Tan was close to Sun during Tet. His whole family lived in the same alley as his grandparent house. His grandparents had contact with Sun's grandparents. Therefore, the two boys had the opportunity to play together since they were in first and second grade. He lived in his hometown at that time. The male and female parts are more spread out in the city, so they looked more respectful and solid. Older and more mature than Sun, a guy from a powder-coated shirt on the street from home at 8 a.m. Sun is at his grandparents' house. His stupid wife has lived for a long time and has already flowed out into the garden bed. Grandma, this summer I'm coming back. The long-term plan is to have 2 or 3 floors. She's letting him get married in it. When she hears Sun's voice, she tells her that she knows. Dad calls to tell her in advance and then says, "Your mother is only here today. Tomorrow she'll go back to Hanoi to suckle." Sun sits down and talks to his grandfather. Let him come back and visit for about 3 weeks. Grandma. Less sad this year is the furthest back to the old winter grandparents this year are also over 70, but the mind is still extremely clear, cheap, rosy, healthy, still extremely resilient and fast. Grandpa leisurely goes to a place Lao food, eyes half closed, pensive. DCAT CDC Tron comes back to play with grandparents, studies a lot, the mind is stressed. Going back to the countryside to play is the most relaxing, then wait for the head to go out to play with the children in the waves, instead of just burying his head in front of the TV. All day long, what are you doing in the yard? Just running out to the yard, taking a little while. They have a shadow of a person lurking in the yard, watching intently for a while then. Say the Emperor were back. Now Tom left the place, smiling numbly. Tet, yellow teeth, went in. Inside, the people left, said, "There was a car," went in, we waited and saw it was you. This year, the summer vacation was long, not the corner of Tan's shoulder, then answered for a long time. But Tan 3 weeks, we've already gone, our brothers and sisters. Who broke the rules from now on? Let's go and notify the others to go. Ta nodded and pulled Sun away. Out to the alley, then went in a bit, went into the house, turned out to be grandparents, parents, the crowd, and the yard, went, left outside the alley to lose, observed one turn. According to each year coming here, everyone's life has changed, going up. Is a happy sign for the homeland of Batron. People following a foul smell to hit right next to it emitted a laugh. The yard was lost looking over then, was suddenly hurriedly released by a Hoa who was shocked to the point of being shocked. Who was that standing next to Zen? Was an old woman with white hair sticking to her ragged patched shirt. The old woman's man was wrinkled and had crow's feet, probably been exposed to the sun for many years looking. Extremely miserable, it was impossible to determine her exact age, but probably she was about 80 because jaws rang, already toothless all over the short, small, skinny figure on the steps. Lynn was tickled, making her no different from a child. The little girl opened her eyes and stepped up to look at Sun, then spoke up, "Young man, can give me fake? Why, sauce, I'm so hungry looking from last night until now." Sun stopped making noise, almost had a heart attack. She appeared there since when I immediately scratched my head, washed the tooth, but hit up there. Where's the rice now from the yard? Ton hurriedly ran. Out in his hand lamb's nylon bag filled with fresh herbs and some shredded meat. Put in here her rice. Here, my nephew doesn't have any rice for you. He played the guitar and immediately put the rice bag in the old woman's hand. I looked at the two of them, turned their heads, and hurriedly walked away. Let out a sound and sweat broke out. He suddenly asked, "Who is this woman?" "Dong In." That scared me. She had only appeared in the village for about half a year, and no one knew where she came from. I don't know how old she was, but I guess that she had to shake her head and this woman had a mental problem. Maybe it was some mental illness that old people often have. During the day, I saw Mrs. On's wife wandering from the village of Zanways below, and at night, she crawled out from the bushes near Baruang to sleep, and no one had any opinion because she didn't cause any trouble. Everyone always smiled when they saw her. Tet looked like a friendly and sociable person, so many people didn't feel sympathy or give her new food. I looked at her appearance. It was a bit like a tree. If I was unlucky enough to meet her on the street, I would be scared. In the yard, I remembered that it was true. With that appearance, the couple at night would probably have a heart attack. Mrs. Cheeseseek didn't think more yard of the city through the house of some table in the neighborhood to that day. When the whole family sat down to eat rice, people present brought a story the governor morning to tell Dawn. Mr. No Dying said that 3 hours had been to look outside crazy, now pretending, but sometimes see, also smart not joking, let's wait a few days. He went wrong to see, then she jumped into the field for a house nearby, although the co-worker was not agile, but very tran close and did just pick. Something can't hear clearly must be the farmer Fung from some hometown washing here suffering. You know, if you have children or grandchildren that you have to suffer like that? You are also a person who has walked and been in the field. Then you nodded and said, it's really pitiful to live like that. Then death is also a liberation. The captain then sighed. Many people were really industrious, but there was no end to life. C wanted to kill Tate Song, but he couldn't have it. Pretending to be like that, he lived a miserable life, exposing his bones to the wind here and there, eating from the fall. Sometimes he even saw the six-tailed beasts eating the stinking fall things. So how could he be sick and ill? What kind of illness was there? If adults said like that, then it's also true that kneeling is also a heavy life. 8 p.m. outside the gate, suddenly a voice called out to the hidden person. Sun blinked and looked outside. Grandpa Bao went to the temple. Remember to come back early. If you want too much, I'll lock you up outside in the yard. Yes, the wharf flowed out to the outside. The village road entered the light. The temple was pale yellow. C4 and 5 people ran happily. Bao went to the fields, and there were a lot of fireflies. Let's play for a bit. Now the two of us are going to catch frogs at night. The yard asked you to go catch frogs. Did Don? One of them immediately answered. Yes, there are a lot of them. But I'm sure your grandpa won't let you go with me. I'm very picky. My head is like that. Grandpa has always been very disciplined. Strictly suffocating until 12 o'clock at night, must have stood outside the door. The children went out. The bronze glass was also cast. The moon above was released into space, a layer of silver light, the illusion of the fist. The wind blew, carrying the scent of trees and grass, touching the snakes. The sound of insects, frogs, and frogs, bringing people a feeling of peace and comfort in their souls. Est lay on his back on the grass, looking up at the sky, holding and chasing those damn fireflies. And that year, there was a plan that it put in its pants. It bit there, the yard eyes closed, limb deep, tan hung suddenly. It felt its toes tickling evil chilly. Like something soft, I clung to the yard, head up, looked down, a black face appeared. Now under the foot, dead red tongue was sticking out, licking. Its toes, a scream ton rang out throughout the pond, making the surrounding children startled. Yard, terrified, sewer together, mouth on the ground no. Longer, twitching, blood ton. Lime ran back, then shouted, this crazy woman, what are you doing? What kind of game is this? Not Chodan was lying down just now. The old woman was crawling down. She didn't say anything, just looked at me and smiled. The other kids immediately ran over. One of them cursed. This old woman sometimes makes people blind. I want her to come to my heart, but I'm so scared that I immediately turned to Sun and asked her if she did anything to you or not. She was serious, but suddenly she counted my toes, and right here, kids widened their eyes in surprise. They all agreed. Their heads were lost, confused, demixed with a little bit of fear. The wall looked at the old woman. Geoban bao cage
ไม่ยอ
pui
ลิน
dal
เอ
ba
อ
ben kia
ทอลิ
adio
นอ
quaba numba tazud hien ode kungahivi e chomai dang ode choi masi u koing dim ma ve cha vui chut now ca sen ba ke dao bukti ti ba kenden oi dunga e dim hamare de koi chum by kui no bat cho de nima kui lambian but a koi len con kakamodi ho the mean Troy cated and tinge ti theo so bat dao hoem in void kiwak Song okay to hey Theo by OID Choi may not trong its own jong meet Sai Hoi Con be moi kai TV. While I dat no D. Everywhere to receive lucky money for that afternoon, a strange event suddenly happened when the wrestling yard Ton Tang went back to hear a loud bang in front of both of them. Two asked what was going on. Then there was a person walking very quickly from the alley towards the two of them. It was Mrs. Bien, and she was holding a child of about 4 or 5 years old in her arms. The child was now crying, causing a stir behind Tom. There was a voice of someone shouting and cursing in the yard, and Tom stood still in the traffic jam, but it was hard to figure out what was going on. Peeled off the mortar and punched straight forward. The mortar and punch see that was really strong. The sun hit the crazy woman's face, only to see a thud. The old woman fell down, very compensating. The baby was in her arms. It also took a nap on one side of the yard, just ran to the concrete to bring the baby up. The governor took someone else to drain, ran from inside the hole. The woman hurriedly rushed, too was angry. The baby was in son's arms, and Min's child. If not, Mom just didn't say, my. Child, are you okay? The men who poured a little ear full of sweet smell at this time were full of fierce aura. The people immediately grabbed the collar of the old woman, the most stubborn, carried her close to the door, and left yelling at the child, "Don't dare to now." Kidnapping waiting for the child at this thing, and blocking the waves. What luck, she pretended to be dead, blood, every greeting. The sea touched the seat closed by Dad. But I looked straight into the eyes of the person. My nephew, it's my nephew. I'm my nephew. If anything went wrong, it's over. She looked over at the woman, dang the child, then continued to say, her nephew, her aunt, her uncle, the man in the temple, the strong woman. She fell on the road. Aunt yelled, who said, who is the grave? Who is the nephew? The mad woman was thrown several rooms on the ground. From the shallow side, suddenly fell out a child. Just looked at the knife. How many people are there? Face shocked hearing about apples in America, the surrounding houses Sue came out to see standing around gossiping, people pointing out whether they had taken it. Yet I can't believe a long bat like that, pretending to be stupid fish finished first one kidnapped someone's daughter to sell to China. Should also have prepared a knife intending to kill people. 2 rocks, H people will be more explosive than stop it, just say something slowly, what are you doing then? People pay tribute both old then stab. Hard-tongued guy at that time, who care remember. Who came yet that man, then gradually lowered fire, pointed to signal the little boy to go. Turned around and glared at the old lady, then went into the lake. If you see anything, go home and I'll give it to you. The crowd gradually dispersed. The whispering was still going on. The old lady was still sitting on the side of the road, her head bowed to the ground, blood dripping into drops. Her mouth kept moaning. Oh, my child, my aunt. The old lady quickly pulled the yard back. As she walked, she looked at the old lady. She held her lowly, scratched, and bruised from earlier. She was directly in front of her face. I was worried. Deep in her. See, once I saw her. He was a girl carrying a cloth bag and throwing it outside. He hugged the little girl like he was hugging her. That's it. It's also called the first grandchild, so the effect is probably the first level of consciousness, those grandchildren who come. So the mentality is not stable. But is it possible that she really has grandchildren? The city is silent and doesn't say anything. The children of that woman can write down many very large ponds in the city standing completely, the crowd since the day after the incident happened. Them in the village began to be afraid of curtains and stay away and go crazy. Especially the houses with small children. Whenever the old lady comes, she is pale and walks on the road. She is hurriedly locked up, takes the children to bathe, and takes the house outside. Vi, on the eyes of the people in the Dan, no longer wanted to contact her anymore. She was still the same. Still walking dejectedly on the village road, her smile had disappeared. Her face was completely gone. The ghost of hope still clung to the sea on the cheek. Sun's grandmother pitied her. She had a sticky rice cake, but the old lady was just silent, accepting the time to walk away. Bidain Tuong thought she would quickly forget. Maybe today she met a passerby, but tomorrow she would be happy again. Why does she look so moody now? So why did Sun go home early? Because Viet was at home. Just as he reached the beginning of No, he was startled by the old lady, who was sitting right under the corner of the electric pole, her knees drawn up like a pile of black rags. She gently walked into the alley. She walked past silently and silently. Then suddenly she raised her head and looked straight into Sun's eyes. It was true. Sun and the crazy old lady faced each other and laughed. She immediately smiled, unlike the first time they met. She was like that, looking at Sun opened her eyes. After today, when she saw a spirit coming, the old lady was still in a daze when the old lady suddenly raised her head. I don't have much longer to live, but I'm afraid that when I die, I might die at an unlucky hour or on an unlucky day, so that I can be kept by the devil outside the Dong Mai area. When I get there, I'm so tired that my face is confused and I don't understand what she just said. Her eyes return to normal, her face is dazed and her mouth is mumbling. She mumbles and sinks her face into the ground. Sun quickly runs home. That night, when we were eating, Sun kept wondering and not understanding what happened that afternoon. Why did she say such strange things to me? Grandpa sat down right away and asked, "Is Mr. Ban's rice not delicious?" "No, Mr. Ban's rice is delicious because this afternoon I took him to pick fruit with Ton Song and ate some miscellaneous things. Now I'm a bit full because I keep eating and drinking like that. Then I can't eat." Grandpa took a sip of Longan wine. His eyes looked out into the yard and asked, "Grandpa and Grandma, where is that Dong area?" After hearing her question, the grandparents were startled, surprised, and afraid to ask again. "That place is forbidden by the grandmother. You are not allowed to go there. You guys only good at destroying villages and breaking waves." Grandfather only then said dryly, "But the ancestors of the people here gave it to a man Tatin opposite the Ramngi long ago, not hundreds of years ago. The line to bury those who died of hunger, disease, and wandering people, Tangbat Sioux, who had no home or door, came here. Chubao's generation is different from Miadu of the village, leaving the village's property only to bury the villagers and their descendants. And the shaman is different from me. She is a wild and ownerless mage-like. On the 1st and 5th days of the lunar month, people still send people to go there to burn incense for them. But because it has been so long, there have been so many generations that no one can remember how many graves there are at the bottom. How many sets of bones lie deep below? How many years have passed and no one has touched that land? Over time, the rain and storms have gradually eroded it. Now, it is impossible to distinguish between a grave and a termite mound, so when the villagers burn incense, they can only guess. The land is considered to be a place of peace for the souls of those people. But for many years now, it has not been a slow thing, but the matter of people going fishing for frogs and sinking their hearts. Sometimes there are ghosts out there. See, everything is normal. The young man's feet are not afraid of heaven or earth or change chow there because there are not many stars there. Sea's skin is very green. The skin under his feet is full of pecks, but the children of So are arrogant. One night they come home and are tortured until they lose their senses. The family must bring offerings to pay tribute. Later on, when C wants to go to the toilet, he has to run far away, through the road of the double ring to Tanbao. This side go for sure. Grandpa will look at Son, then continue to say, "Hole, you should be careful to lift the net sea land of the dead. Watch out as house come here." Hai will be scared. He is inherently timid, especially with ghost stories like that. Immediately asked the crazy lady's words, laughing in the Dong Mai area. Why did you take her beauty shadow outside flat road to think her shouting? Grandpa frowned what's going on, but later on it has been quiet. Noisy Ni San Vu, Bat Duk ran outside and came to. Dong, Ho Na saw Tan coming waiting for when there was a group in front. The person who was standing waiting for the turtle in the yard then asked what was going on. Tan shook his head and replied that the crazy woman of the house was setting up the offering tray in the yard. A ghost rushed in and took the chicken. Dew was eaten by the homeowner. Tam was now lying down eating in the middle of the yard. Tantian looked at the ground. Sometimes they put a big bundle of incense in the main hall. And the old woman was lying curled up to hug and kill the chicken. Locke and the others immediately said, "Oh my God, there's a chicken that's been hiding." What a black day. We should probably tell the commune to send a militia down to coax this old woman to come here. V ran around and tried to move around. Hearing that something was happening, they came out to watch and became fish. They sighed. Then going, maybe she was too hungry to take a risk, but before that has never shown like that. Look at the old lady lying shivering on the floor. So temporarily extremely pitiful inside the house, and uncle ran in and out, no problem anyway, it is necessary to finish, consider it as a blessing, and people dispersed. There is nothing slow Nam those people secretly threw curses. Then went inside the house. The old lady slowly sat up, leaning on her hands with difficulty to take each step towards the end of the road, and just like that, looking at the shadow of the ball, she gradually disappeared under the canopy. Like the market remembers something, the temple bow. Have you ever gone out to the dry fields to play? Tom was a bit surprised and replied that out there, the pearls often retreat and look out, but my uncle's waves rarely come near the object, partly because there are many thorns growing there, partly because it's gloomy and cold. It's not a cave for children to play in. But I heard my grandfather say that there are ghosts out there. Did you hear my grandfather say that there are ghosts out there? What do? They are ghosts, but the kneeling child has existed for a long time, and few people have sacrificed it, so it's very rare. If people say it is hiding deep in the yard, hearing this, then Gently Felbin village does not have ghost stories. Natural epidemic is real now. Or not, then heaven knows yard and city pull together. John, come live outside this water road. We shadow people passing by to be machine flow stuff. A suffocating rain sound of rain falling on a tiled roof. Suntran is not finished. Smell was outside the nursing home. Cast in a little weak like oil. Temple to Mu Thok Lao grandfather rang out, proving that he also has not slept yet. The next morning, Citadel finds sun. The two of them were planning to go to the crowded place to make a slingshot to shoot birds. When the two of them were building a house in the yard, a guy ran in from the gate and said, "You two, are you still sitting here? Do you know anything or not? We've been outside all morning, making a slingshot. We didn't go out on the street. You came, you died, grinding dust. You're a fisherman. This morning, someone went to the field and found out that Tian was dead. Why did you put him in a cage? I don't know. Now the commune police are coming down to search that bed. On the day of the meditation, they extracted his general and opened him up. Look at Dong Dam for you to go. Don't be afraid all morning. Tell me to go out there, look." When the three of us got there, the people in our village gathered together. Right next to the dragon's nest, there was a tent built with a few tarpaulins and torn sackcloths, lined inside with old clothes, making a place to sleep that looked like a dog's nest. It was a tent for show, but in reality, it was just a place to shelter from the sun and rain, built from a few large tree branches stuck into the ground. The mad lady was lying right on top of a pile of clothes. She died in the funeral, lying around, making her already small body look even smaller. More, it seemed like a child standing there. Tan and Sun dodged the crowd and entered this ditch. The police were present to check the cause of death of the aunt, who was not related and had lived in the village for a while. The initial judgment was that it was due to a sudden death. The time of death was around 3 to 5 a.m. Finally, a group of tortured people came to an end. This was probably a relief. Many people witnessed this scene and felt pity and sympathy. Tan and Tan stood still in the sewer. A feeling of loss and sadness was hard to describe. Tan said softly that in her arms she was still holding. A boiled fool was eating fake yard. Red eyes noisy turned away, dodged out of the east. Mr. Mac Truong Tan worked with a virtue. then brought to unity that people held a simple funeral, then buried the old lady in the area. First, she pointed to the direction of the land where Mr. Tung grew up that fell into the Dong Mai area. This place about 12 meters, only the yard was gone. Look at me, point hand to next citadel, a deserted land with many bushes, thick and overgrown, and the dog Hong escaped hidden. Meditation said these dogs from the neighboring villages came here. Sister Sun stayed home to look after that day. The house for grandparents to attend the funeral. The stork stepped in and said that today at home, it's so boring. My grandparents also have a funeral. I'll bury them now. Yeah, I know, but he said that waiting for you shouldn't go to the funeral. When the dead cling to you will get sick. It's crowded and it's a sin. Her karma is too bad. But anyway, when it's true, it's a ghost thoughtful. Can't be comforted in any way. I was silent and didn't say anything. I thought about the incident the other day. Mrs. Diane on the pile, so she said, what about the next incident that happened? Hong, at 8 o'clock in the evening, the grandparents came back. He brought the whole thing out onto the porch and chained it up. The people sat down next to him and asked if the funeral was crowded. Mr. Dong was very crowded. Every day there were 1 or 2 representatives who went, but no matter what they said, people still sympathized. Outside the gong, people's voices echoed in. Are you back yet, sir? Are you back yet? I'm back. Now the gong-filled man walked in and followed Mr. Tan. The people stood up as usual. That was Mr. Tin. The grandfather of Tane Tin sat down and took the book from his grandfather's hand. He asked, did you see me say that just now? Grandfather went inside the house and opened the cabinet, and a moment later brought out a book. Old thick lump inside are all handwritten letters with the images of the 8 trigrams of all kinds. He floated in the moon, love flipping uncle. Looked carefully and nod. He said very sincerely, it is not good to die at a bad hour today. I see. I said it was not wrong. The 2 see like that while discussing and focusing on studying the book Tan. Pulled Sun out to a GC and said, I went to a funeral and there was a lady who died at a living hour. I don't know if I committed any crime or not. Why could it be such a coincidence? Could it be that the old lady knew everything about the death of oneself or some other cause? When the monk died, the mind and spirit suddenly became calm. The wise man guessed everything, but later from outside the alley, a woman of 4 walked and whispered into the yard. He asked why now. Everyone was so crazy. They naturally held a fishing rod and went in a round ruler. They just caught the pond of the master. It was 11 o'clock at night, but just now they were so scared. The grandmother and her granddaughter were in a state of confusion. The young girl had a black cat that came out of nowhere and jumped straight in. They jumped up and down. That coffin. Skinny guy hit it and it just kept on being stubborn. Probably had to hit it on the head for a long time and throw it out into the yard for it to run away. Old Man Tin heard that and was startled. Damn, where did the black cat come from? Did you guys sit in the shit? What happened? The other person broke his head and was startled. It must be Old Man Heap's cat, fat and bleeding. How could it find out and beat DAC? How could I? Grandma had foreseen it, but there was nothing. Why did Grandma just twitch a little bit? HC, Grandma, we just need to squeeze it a little bit and it'll be fine. Hien Tuong Hoa learn MM, what flower? What flower? It's really Quan Hui. Harnett, the young men in the field, looked at each other and thought about turning to tell Grandpa, maybe tonight I'll take the ghost on a trip. Otherwise I'll be worried. Okay, let's go see if there's anything wrong. My leg can't walk. After a while, Grandpa thought about it, and so I went back to the yard and sat very quietly. I heard the sound of a funeral trumpet in the distance. 8 o'clock the next morning, after breakfast, Tan had already passed by. Sun went out to play. V saw it in Tan. Grandpa called in and asked, hey, bring her. Are you out there? Is there anything wrong? Tan paid for it. No, shirt. I said I was going down. Normal whole new crime, not much after that. The grandchildren flower, it just kept hanging around. The people still resentful planned a way to beat to death. The three children come back quickly beat after eating slowly. The grandfather immediately frowned, thinking the house was broken all day long. The mind only thought about eating and drinking. Those guard dogs there, they are skinny, not yet do is specialized in eating dirty things, sometimes eat meat and get rabies. Crazy. 6 o'clock in the yard. Ton ran like the wind on the road, and gee, the two children's hands are 4 or 5 still fat in the yard. Now excited, it's been a long time since I've eaten meat, but it's still a frog today. It's been beaten now, it's still the idea. The next day, Zin and a few other guys went out at night. Suddenly they stood together and listened. The temple must have something right away. The city stood still and focused. The temple must have been a dog outside the pond. It must have been a group of people who had given birth to a group of nearly 10 of them. The woman from the nearby village was startled and came here to wander around. A cool breeze blew from the fields into the village. Wind passed through the treetops. Tm, the rustling sound of the city, and Sun gently used himself to quickly go home. And to the people, the children always had some common interests. They left behind to go to Dawn Country. Bath this ruler, people still see him sitting attentively, so save the books that have turned yellow. Time yard color. Asked Chong. See torn, what did he write that he studied so much? This evil book Q was left by the old man for him that year. She went to trade with in Laos and Cambodia to get the love of the teachings of one body, his Dharma body, this Dharma pure sect, many things in it real, no han tung sin tung cap exam vat men boi tong. Feng Shui, Chan Trake de Tai, how Van Si Noi followed that. Teacher need a year, then also gathered a little bit of the first Mark U's raft, except in this book here. Is also a book assembled from many sheets of paper. Should look at the old Nam house, and because C has been on paper for 70 years but has not written inside, only the PHV can still be beaten by her to leave for him for many years when he won each year to bring people to save contemplation and as a reference. So the letter K when he applied a lot because after all, he is not a professional, to be more precise. His innate talent is limited. Not that I want to save the fall. Why is that house then? Said from yesterday, he and again, did he talk about the matter of the old lady dying at a bad hour? What is it? Is there any harm in this, sir? Are you durable? Actually, some people say this is superstitious. Some people believe that Sa Ne, the Vietnamese who died at the hour of poison, are often associated with planting tan. The planting tan is real. Is it superstitious? However, because of this Mrs. C, yesterday too learned that she should save the day and time of her death. It's true that she's bad, but she has no relatives. Even if she has them, it's the same as not having them. You're worried about another problem, especially when the cat at home takes the cat's coffin and goes to Ta. What will happen? Just wait for me to know. What are these things for? What's the matter? What's the matter? Grandpa also made it so mysterious. I lost my D machine and couldn't close my eyes because the sound of barking like that echoed in the field. I was afraid that the dogs would bark again like that. What's going on out there? The next morning, Son went to pick fruit. At this time, the yard mentioned the incident where the house cat went to LP. He couldn't get over it. He suddenly said that he didn't know anything about the phenomenon of possession. Though, as far as I know, when a cat is a black cat, a lynx jumps over a person and kills him. The stone suddenly woke up and ran away, causing danger to the living. At that time, there was a demon jumping in and taking over the body, so I called it a ghost in the village. People used to say that, but I've never seen it before. There must have been many opportunities to be possessed. The first time a spirit called in could be heard in the east. Then, naturally, the two of them looked at each other and attracted each other between two electric currents. At this time, the two of them arrived at the house of an aunt with a very lucky face. Count Tant smiled and said, Baba has a very kind heart and is a funny person. He had a large garden with more than a dozen types of fruit. He smiled and replied, Your father is only good at telling lies. For money, you can look after the house for me. I went to the market for a bit. Like this, I went inside and saw trees from one tree to another. I like this feeling. Eating fruit here is dirty. It feels delicious. I wandered into the market for a while and then heard people talking outside. I heard the sound of people talking. My aunt was talking about something very loudly. She pretended to be curious. She jumped down to the ground and went back out the gate. At this time, Uncle Tam had also gone back. About an aunt of Baoisek Temple today. Not much to go to the field, but saw meat scattered on the ground. Some people looked when it turned out to be dog meat around the old man. There was also a dog's leg. The colorful earthen jar was scattered on the ground. The dog flew everywhere and heard this. The ladies immediately said, "That was so terrible. Could it be that the Hong brothers were always cruel to each other, but last night I heard them screaming miserably." It seemed that the story of the high-level CACA leading to the north was like a dream, listening very passionately. Sudan listened vaguely, then also grasped part of the incident. Maybe. That's why the wild dogs were so well fed last night. But to the point of biting each other, to the point of their bodies breaking apart like that, was truly terrifying. Auntie came that afternoon. Son couldn't go out and come home because he was bored, so he had to go back to the yard and come home. It was almost 6:30 during dinner. He heard his grandparents talking to each other. Some people who went to the fields today saw many scratches from the wild dogs. Grandpa's face was dry, and he said, "It's so strange. The wild dogs had been living in the village for a year or two. He had never seen them bite each other before. Why did they suddenly stop feeding the past 2 nights? Grandma immediately replied to let them bite each other. It's not a normal thing. What's wrong with you?" Strangely, he didn't say anything more. His eyes looked out at the cotton field. Dawn was thinking about it. It was almost 11 o'clock at night on the deserted road. Tan still walked and skipped. This body was really Bo Thursday when he carried 2 stretchers. I was big and thought about grilled fish, which Tom was careful to let Duke's pieces and walked across buoy for the bushes. At first, early, he suddenly heard a sound of a landslide. He turned back and was startled when his husband calculated the day he would kill him. He was a stray dog, and he had this dog on him. Full of fees, but his bleeding drops see bright eyes squawk in the dark, the dog not knowing where from meditation hard toward Ton and growling groaningly. This is definitely a dog in the wild dog pack. Normally during the day, this group does not dare to sneak into the village because they will be beaten by the villagers. But now it is 11 o'clock. No one is on the street. This sea dares to sneak in here to hang around Purple Loin Ton than in the steppe. Back for Hong Hong to be more cautious than act. Home not only that this dog has crazy expression in tongue. Consider it done Ton back tongue, but Tan planted behind a guard. The dog seemed to know its intention was the mortar man, as if preparing to jump forward. Ba suddenly gave a bamboo bush and the old man's lamp pile with extremely fast speed, and for Hong Chu Kai to stand up. He was taken by that V to straighten up a loud screech, and the dog fell to the ground and scratched. And for Hong, also not just was the paper struggling to go to tongue, like the glass full of glare beam to bite the mask under. The flickering light of the old light bulb hanging on the electric pole dropped. The 2 of them were violently bleeding and falling down. Looking back, the thing that attacked the dog was small and had the appearance of a 9 to 10-year-old child. The hair was matted and covered his face. A bolt of electricity ran through his head, making him shiver. His whole body trembled, and he jumped up and stood firmly at the gate. Sweating, and Ding looked at the crazy thing in front of him, making him think that it was a crazy old woman. Her body was full of small, gray hair, and a beard covered her entire face. There was no mistaking that it was her, but she was dead. Two men standing there from a tragically fallen up, and then silently still let the wild be transported chest-neck dead on the spot. Ton and I, who turned over, could not really lift the dog. Fell a wharf, tear it open, like people fall a wharf drama, like that its mouth chewed fresh blood. See like that young we from the sea, small evil drops, and evenly see eyes red like blood water, looking towards Ton's direction. The love is scared soul, towards the clouds. Throw all the fish left Mrs. Tran 4 streams. Flow half alive, half dead, its mouth lang up tragically. Say me scream all sea, become loud. The whole way, but the house number Hurley turned on the light to run Tam go a dan. We slept and also woke up this time. I calculated the city of Didong, Sun Alley. I didn't know what happened the next morning. I just woke up and chewed. I calculated Mr. C. Tin in the Hoa yard was surprised what happened. He lived here, so Mr. Tin at this time was telling a story to his grandfather. His grandfather heard and was surprised and said, "Why is there such a big story like that? Please see, come here." And asked clearly the boss, and Dad said that Ton came outside holding the strength and was surprised. Why did he come here? Live like that, Tom Mulock inside the strange rash lost the Heartmain halo, showed the land, stayed up all night. El glanced at Son but did not say anything. Mr. Duke then immediately asked the boy, "What did you see last night? Why did it sound so strange?" Tom Lawn Country BT Virgin flat face a bit scared as I immediately told everything to Grandpa. So after listening, both Son and Grandpa were surprised. Son laughed, patted the shoulder. Tom, but what the are you telling me? Why is it so absurd there? There's no reason to make it up. This story is what I saw is the old lady. She kicked the dog to flatter the shoe machine before the sudden fall of the city. Never tried. Ton had such an expression. Shirt Tin at that time just said doubtful at Tin still on the sentence. Then where did Grandma come from? Go back to the yard. She complained something happened. Two guys, something happened. What happened? Why did she quickly come up there? The cream of the color of the old lady was beaten. Tom can't see the color anywhere. Hold it lost. But what wrong? I'm wrong. Okay. I lost. How do I know? We are arguing outside the dirt today. A few people go up to the district market passing by Sedong, but then seeing a pile of new dirt, the priest Lin Sin and IV went closer to see that the grave had been dug up. The lid had popped off and disappeared. But not only that, there were still many dogs with long dogs around. The four people looked at each other, wondering what was going on. Mr. Tin looked at his grandfather with tears in his eyes, deciding to go out there to see what was going on. At this time, everyone was gathered outside. By Tat, a man named Vap was a commune guard officer who was 50 this year. When the two newsmen quickly ran out because digging up a grave was not a job. Small R is the grave of a person who eats man tea, but Dong has one thing. His question is the grave of a table. Abnormal brain without buoy 10, then why was it dug up? Could it be dug up to get the color of Mr. D? The crowd of believers guessed that the grave had been dug up. As soon as they saw their grandfather and Mr. Tin Long Bu running back, the two uncles also came out here. Is it fake? Let's see how the altar is. Brother, take a look at it. Mr. Vu went around the scene and carefully observed to help Dong fact. He discovered a strange detail, but did not say anything in the West because Mr. So would cause. Out of confusion, public opinion, Ton and Dirty are also here. Ton looked at the gundock stuck to the grave, tricked the talented child against the old lady's true color has disappeared in kin, picked the picture back, but the pale face must be true. She is her. Then I'm not dizzy with the yard head like Fong Tu. The story Ton told and the history of the incident. See sack in the grave has disappeared. Very mysterious robbery chain traces each other. Mr. Vu then Tran Tin speaking of this is a grave. Robber unknown motive for the crime, but also committed a crime I will report to the police to solve here. There is no problem. What else? And the person who dispersed the house said, so the people in the village immediately pulled each other out, so the sound of discussion immediately what they were extremely excited, surprised the first time witnessing such an event. See in it his anger. Buddha whipped his mouth, pointing to the sadness of the inhuman and immoral to do like that. When both of them left, Mr. Tin Tien came closer in a bit of analysis of them. Shirt then just said, probably have guests like this too. Uncle C, if reasonable, look at these writing marks. I find very strange, especially the coffin lid normally has to be opened 7 times. It cannot be broken into many pieces with a hard object. Secondly, the traces of this pen are not like people use tools to dig a stake. It looks more like a dog digging a nest because the dog raised at home also goes to the garden to dig a nest. So it looks like a dog. It cannot be 10 dogs, so this tiny grave is possible. Grandpa frowned. That's right, he said. Look at the coffin lid at the village construction site. Does that mean something broke the lid and got out? Mr. Vu was silent and spoke as if he tacitly agreed. After a while, he said that there was going to be a person with a fundamental mental problem who would not bring any value to the grave robbers. She was not just a superstitious person. Such a thing had never happened before. He nodded and replied. Moi Dap dug again, not deep and sketchy, but Sage Hong smelled it. So now how to explain about that, Sat? He patted her and said, just call the police to work according to the correct procedure. Nearly an hour later, the police arrived to examine the scene according to the instructions. Preliminary, it is possible that the wild dogs drove her crazy for many hours because the victim had no relatives, so all the details of the case. Since the investigation agency will work with Mr. Vu at this time at Mr. Vu's private home, a person from Bao Dai Temple, it seems very absurd. We have made a hypothesis that it is possible that the ant is still alive and broke the coffin because according to the broken screws on the top of the coffin, it was broken from the inside, not from the outside, but there are also many unreasonable points because according to the report, the new neck 2 or 3 days ago can be skinny and tiny, not putting any effort to judge, even if this is a cheap, light-bodied, evil official. Not only that, I have recorded the report, but C's preliminary autopsy confirmed that she was definitely dead. This is really strange, and H.Q. was surprised and heard this, and the devil entered the prison. The people who were there were surprised. Looking through the shirt, he seemed to realize that he was given a life by Mr. Vu's mother. He didn't say anything. Don't pay attention. Everyone laughed and said, when did you say that specifically? Do you still believe in these stories? Han didn't say anything more, just kept silent. Go to the police again because where the old lady went, maybe we will hand it over to the village feed. Then search for the TNG remains when the people with him left. He still asked that. Now, do you think the two of you will go to Hui Du? Everyone will go look for the old lady, or just let her go wherever she wants. Just let her go wherever she wants. If it is true, she is waiting for a resurrection, but she is still so stubborn that I don't know what I said, full of hidden meanings. Mr. Tin made have to say. When he got home, Mr. Tin asked Mr. No son, what should we do now? He didn't know how to solve it, but he didn't know how to leave me. Never seen this afternoon before. Even at noon, the yard went to the house to find Ton and saw him lying still on the bed. Uncle Tin said he was sick, and this morning he came home with a fever and hugged his mother, and just got back to the yard. On high look towards the B&L. He must have encountered something terrifying to be affected like that. When the wife got home, Grandpa said that these past few days, Han should refrain from going out on the street and stay at home. Going out on the street at this time is not safe. This village after 6 p.m. Tong, how is like a traitor? Going out on the street is a matter of children. They're just going out. The yard is also not safe. What's the point of playing when the people are rolling around like that? That night, the nun lay down and thought about the events that happened from yesterday until now. In her heart, Sa still believed that perhaps the old woman had really come back to life. She had gone somewhere and was no longer in this village. This night the dog's fate was over, and there was no longer a flock for Hong to go anywhere. The sad man suddenly got up and used a flashlight to open the door and step out into the yard. All day long, the sun was hot and sunny. Only the general. Now the air had cooled down a bit. The yard reached out and turned on the switch. The toilet's light bulb suddenly lit up while the water was still flowing. The house saw that there was a garden type of sound that supported the wings very smoothly. The grandparents' house was built in the old style. On each house, there was a courtyard with a garden about 20 meters away from the yard. To go from the yard to the garden, you had to go through a small pair of stairs. The roof was covered with a corrugated iron roof. The high wallpaper on both sides was a mistake. This was the toilet. The toilet wall was connected to the garden. The people stood behind. The glass was raised and looked into the garden. There was a dark space. I couldn't see anything. I could only see the toilet. The sound of flapping wings, the sound of frogs, the sound of the pond, all of us bring the chicken coop back. The force is so strong that Dan, the flashlight in his hand, shines straight towards the chicken coop. Suddenly the yard is startled. He drops the flashlight in his hand to the ground. His heart is like a drum in the field. Something has jumped right next to his husband, trying to catch the chicken. He suddenly flashes through his mind. The other thing looks very much like a person. That thing has looked at the thing, immediately counting on screaming wildly. It is swamping the ants to awaken it. Hastily grabs the flashlight and runs to welcome. Go into the house and say, "Grandpa and Grandma, did you really come to the garden to steal chickens? Grandma looks like that. Now hurry up." Grandpa and Grandma hurriedly run to the garden. Grandma is angry. She ran after the sound of hurried footsteps. Something just jumped up quickly towards the bushes. The wall passed by and disappeared. The iron and glass turned on. 2 flashlights immediately shone into the chicken coop on the floor. A hole as big as grass appeared, still covered with feathers and chicken claws. Grandpa hurriedly went over and turned on the flashlight and counted the 2 chickens in the yard, turned on the flashlight and went down to the ground around the coop, hiding the feet of the person's face. It turned pale. Grandpa now mumbled XT cut on the spot no. But the next morning he called Mr. Tin to discuss the matter. He said, "Count the fruit of the year MVV. My family killed everyone here. Do you recognize anyone that broke the chicken cage door and stuck it? Their blood splattered everywhere. You find strange, really. Can you see its shape clearly behind SBN?" replied. "Let me see it pass by. It turned its back to me. Can't see clearly. Like a crazy old lady, Mr. Na. Came here, then his face." Suddenly Pale sat down on the chair, then said, "Yes, right, there is a high possibility. Possessed by ghost tram." Then Grandpa breathed and released the work only to 100 minutes. But what else is possible now? Have never seen it with my own eyes, but in the book that Mr. C left behind also recorded many stories transferred from the past to the present, but all have one thing in common, is death be strange behavior. However, knowing this time of escaping to eat raw meat is not serious. H calmly looking out into the yard in the eyes of the public escape a nostalgia. He said, "There is a dangerous thing hiding somewhere in this village." When brought back, it X crawled out. CP, hang gate, known him, go in our gardens, threatening our safety. Grandpa sighed and replied that the old lady had been possessed by Kui. He had come back to life and entered a certain place. He had crept out into the garden to steal chickens and tents. Few people found them and drove him into a mental state. Itani Lang for a while said nothing. After a while he stood up and left. While walking, he said, "I will think of a way." Otin did not go home immediately, but turned onto a large road towards Mr. Vu's house. On the way to the old warehouse, he saw his father and 5 people reattached together and immediately went forward to ask what happened. Suddenly, he was startled and lay right under the cover of a dog that had been gnawed. Nam, thanks to the color lying deep inside, few people noticed the high energy. This was the color of a wild dog that was so angry that he had witnessed and observed the color of Mr. Tin. I couldn't help but be terrified. His whole body was swollen, broken and crushed. His eyes were gnawed. His head was gouged out. His insides were completely gone. He quickly forgot to go somewhere else. Then he had dawned on. It seemed that this incident was extremely serious. A nurse was sitting in a researcher T. All then there was a voice calling, "Nanny, are you home, Uncle Tin? Please come in there. Is something I have to say," Village Chief Onk had to say, because the whole village looked at Mr. Tin's body very seriously and firmly. Mr. Vu was fake. "Yes, yes, if there is anything, please just say, Mr. Vuen, to ask you a question. Do you believe in ghost possession?" Mr. Vu V heard the next question and surprised face showed. Strange expression. He himself is a retired cadre, a member of the special class, but did not believe much in Tien Aunt Tam when hearing Mr. Tin ask like that. Then he, "How strange is that? See, where you be? What do you want to say?" "I don't believe my children and grandchildren. Nature is like knowing the answer in advance." He sighed. "Last night the students had their chickens stolen, many chickens stolen. Do you know who took them?" O Tin looked at Dong and patted and said, "Village Chief, do you know who took them? Is that crazy woman? What does that be? Birth? Look at Ba. That's right, she's still alive. Be birth. Did she change? Did you know who?" Said she was dead at that time too, or 3 chicken Sin died on the spot. Blood sold tea. When Mr. Sin returned to the place, we turned on the pin. The wall is nearly 2 meters high and runs through the school. Can you believe it, Uncle Ton, Uncle Hai? It's too much. There's such an absurd story. Fatty said that the old lady was still alive. It's more believable than thunder. Otin suddenly stood up and patted his shoulder. He said, "That lady over there is really dead. It's true that she revived herself, but she's no longer her. Now she's a ghost that was possessed by a lot of people. She's no longer human. Bring her into the garden." The group of people bit Tri Tien, the new chicken from Ton, my husband, the other night. Not seeing Mr. Hai, the waiter at the end of the street, their Si Chong was bitten to death. Fresh shirt. Tin poured out breath. Finished. Then all sweat face. Tense waiting. Shirt. Breast. Stood still staring at face, not counting a land face. Extremely complicated. Unexpectedly Mr. Vu pushed Mr. Tin's hand away and said, "How can there be such a ridiculous story, but for 3 years you still have such superstitious thoughts? Don't you saw Todd's true? Negative, but or is the North fake? So mistaken, holding you." Tin sat down on the chair, shook his head, and said, "Teeny On is a cadre with a clear and sensitive mind. Sharp know how to analyze." Who said that the general mentioned that, "But you think I'm wrong?" Holding the color. Vu sighed and sat down opposite, said, "The sacrifice Uncle or Uncle Sin have evidence. There is nothing to prove or not Uncle. Also present it, Sir Sin convenient again. Both people are fake. Sometimes looking at the flower national gate should be like copper surface." And Mr. Tintin's pride straightened up. "If that's the case, I also have nothing more to say. Don't X. No, I ask permission from the village chief. I go home." Shirt planned to give a straight out. Himavio raised his hand. All at something dim, then stopped. His salty look clearly revealed. About 5 moves back home, he calculates the level. The boy was in a tune, carrying the pipe out to the yard. Taking a puff, he walked out of the house. C's face was less dark, and he said, "Oh, sir, about the matter of meeting you last night. Why don't you go out at night anymore and stay home during the day?" After the matter was over, Mr. Vuex thought for a while and stood up to leave the house. Now he was going to go to the grave to take a look again, and went to the grave. There was something strange when Loy got close to see Mr. Vulum, the full moon. The other body had already begun to be picked up. Boy, but yesterday, when he passed by this place, he didn't pay any attention. He suddenly remembered what Mr. Vuex said. Mr. C calculated just now, had slowly started to slow down. Could it be that this story is exactly as the old man calculated? A person just saw Mr. Vu and said that the village chief here 3 days ago suddenly died before suddenly becoming silent. And this one died here. There is a possibility of mutual CNS. This be said that it is very fierce and dangerous. Some people who go fishing at night are afraid of frogs at night. I think we should establish a group of young people. The neck is gone. This dog is Mr. Vu. Loudly let it pass. Move on now. Walk straight towards Dong'im area. He has lived in this village for decades. Do you know? Go pearl grass to dig outside the land to prevent forgetting her. And of course there is also this rice field, because this land always grows better than other lands through here. Maybe because the border is where many people die. Even so, For Mr. Vu at that time, there was not a bit of fear or hesitation, and the god of the year has not passed. He has not once had a ghost appear on this land like what people often say to increase the ghostly part later. When he grew up, he went to work and went to work he also. Can't remember the last time I stood on this dirt was when the engine was decades ago, even though I cycled on the village road every day to work seeing the dirt from afar. But right now, coming to the small island in front of the surgery, he felt fear present. Focused on the gun pit, there was a small coffin lying in the open, broken into many pieces with dog legs everywhere. A person passed by the examination of the body. Its heart stopped beating, the body was cold, and stiff blood stopped flowing. How could it be revived? Perhaps he was deceiving himself in this world. There are things that are just the level of each image and human understanding. And between this time, BTS Mr. Vu's perception is certainly something happened to the old lady's face. Of Vu is contemplating the goddess of the battle. There is something rustling. The ant is startled, turned back inside. Bui Ram Tin Duong K is gently shaking the dress of Eo, stepped back, jerked a few steps are. Wild dogs hush. Sure enough, then in the grass, two dogs have new top. Lamp flowers suddenly come out, glaring fiercely empty at him. Pat growling, Sandy Pat hurriedly guards. See, then the house always has a dog under all. The two children on Tan Din Chi likes the wound strength. Tan Trong steps towards the grave. One jumps down to the world and sniffs around. Maybe the smell of the body is still long left below. Suppose they dig up the grave. If the old lady can't move on her own, will definitely be prey for this. Dog hole, don't stay here long and nanny then. Trong steps step by step toward the path, quickly goes straight into her, and return to the head of the wave. He heard the sound of people playing baskets, noisy whole level world. Expected, he quickly trust die to see if what happened. Then the other person has already put his hand away in a here. Then uncle on duty don't know which bastard let his child sneak into the house. VN forced him to clean the chickens laying eggs in the cluster of sharp. Go away. Then go to Najai. I came to my brother, but know what sacrifice did I have to 18 to let the ancestors of that house go. Another person Cup said too is the night of the call for the 5 color flowers in. Here then it went into the garden and died. No thieves would. Killed them all on the spot like that. The woman immediately did the grass finish, but there's a wall C-meter BK inside. The garden still has the top of the footprints of the people. He suddenly patted them as if he remembered something. He quickly said, "Where is it? Take me in to see." A few people immediately went into the yard. The north went out to the fruit garden and looked around at the chicken coop. There were many footprints of people walking. The flag was carried. A pair of chicken feathers and blood were all over the ground. Avio then nodded and said, "Although this coop is a bit fragile, but anyway, there is no door to point to someone who made it like this." Pham went barefoot and jumped up and down. Mrs. Tuong's footprints were naturally very small, just like a child's. Certainly not the footprints of Trung Ton people. The people around were all standing. Yin. That's right. Could it be that there was a child somewhere? At night, they shouted to steal chickens. One person immediately exclaimed, "Whose child could do this?" My body is familiar to all my children, but only 2 fruits. Mr. Vu nodded. He didn't say anything. He came. The crazy old woman always went. Tran Dad has a body. Nin is as small as a kid in Class B or Class 5. The woman shook his shoulder and patted him, asking, "What are you going to do that you look so absent-minded?" "It's nothing. My grandmother, okay. I will go and do this." B immediately took 6 of the traps like that. It's not like I'm moving things, but if it's a child, I won't let it go. After saying that, he went straight outside and picked up Ton, who was slowly getting dressed in the yard. He heard someone calling out. Cam was there. He grabbed him and his grandson, who were in the house. Uncle Yu patted his neck and walked in. He was already thinking. He was sitting on the wooden bench, deep in thought. Mr. Vu, he was thinking. Hong Mang was surprised. "What's the matter, Mr. Che thought. Pretending to be Uncle Sa. Now let me say a few words that aren't true. I hope you'll forgive me. Now let me go to V's house. Ti at home, they lost a few chickens, the storks were killed down in the field. Why Hyatt, as the incident happened, the old man's house around there were many human footprints. You tin temple built across your village school. Come here. Tell me this story for what? Sir, I originally believed it, but it's true it sounds hard to believe, but I still hold the opinion that there was a boy and jumped into the garden to raise chickens, however. I want to say your opinion made Mr. Tin just heard this full of this, so his face was red and he shouted, and Dong Gwyn had his own opinion. Then T find me for what T don't have an answer, Lo get ask and ask. Why do you do it for nothing? Why would someone take you to someone's garden at night to kill them all blood and sacrifice them to the ground? People are not ghosts. If you don't think alike, then there's no point in talking sorry. No? See you off. Nurse shook her head. T long, he had to stand up. Yes, porridge for Uncle. Other tense situation standing next to the house, and also nervous Pat shirt still go asked, and see also immediately went to Mr. Sin's house. Ton hurriedly ran after, and when he got there, Mr. Ko Tin clearly expressed his indignation was choosing people. Son's grandfather saw that and threw a stick of tea with a green bean and said, calm down and cool down. We don't have any reason to believe that people plan things. Now, what can two old men like us do? From morning until now, I've been feeling restless. Just talking about that, Mr. Tyndall. It's true that two old men can do what now? The teacher pulled Son to a corner and recounted the incident earlier. The yard worriedly said, has anyone been in danger tonight? Maybe it's something like that. It's impossible to get out of the village. Ton DC worried 11 o'clock at night. The machine was sitting outside the door, looking out at the street. The lights were on, and the farmer was strange today. So he asked Mr. Lean Tack, Mrs. C, go to bed, let it be. After a while, Mr. Vu made a bold decision, saying that now, with a high sense of responsibility, he would go and verify whether one side was real or not. He had to go and verify to know. So he ran down to the kitchen, got a knife, put it in the other side, and came out wearing long clothes, padded shoes, a hat, a flashlight, and went to the door of his wife. Where did he go at night? I was surprised then. Ask say, hey, where are you going? I'll verify one thing. B, just go to sleep. No need to wait for me. After he finished, he quickly walked out onto the Ben Road and disappeared into the night. After walking a short distance, a flash of light appeared from behind. Mr. Vu looked back and saw a few people walking at night. Then he patted a person and laughed. Uncle Trin, where are you going carrying such a bag? The nurse laughed. He just said, we're just going on patrol, guys. Remember to be careful. After he finished speaking, he went straight to the kin people. After that, they looked at each other, not understanding what was going on. Just like that, they walked on the familiar village road. At night, it becomes quiet and peaceful again. Michigan is extremely deserted now. All the houses have fallen into a deep sleep to reach the banyan tree at the head of the communal house. Then he stopped bait like a stone boat with a drooping crest. The usual foot shape left from the time of the war to the east, aching of E.O. Nan remembered, sighing steadily, eyes looking into the indefinite space. Suddenly, T. Trin, can we have something piled down to cover Mr. Vu's head? According to the discharge, Mr. Vu. Startled, quickly, husband people go forward, then lost momentum. Nye refused to move forward. When the communal house god stood up, T, the hat on my head disappeared. It turns out that thing is hit the hat. Vu trembles and pulls out the knife in his hand. The market light is on the scene. Someone put that ladies, but down here, there's a squishing sound. It sounds like when people are eating something under the flashlight and the old man is swinging to sell on the scene. The old lady is still hanging. Basket. It's her, a skinny figure. The housekeeper's white hair is matted, but now that hair is thinning, revealing a patch of it. The head is pale, peeling off. Her face is white, her eyes are black, and her face is covered in blood. The blood was drying on the ground. It was no longer an old woman, but a demon. Vu's legs trembled. His work was steady like 4 demons. The knife in his hand trembled along with his body. Slowly he dropped it, heading towards Mr. Vu. A shadow rose up in the dark sky. The fish was worshipping. It was like an explosion. It was like following Mr. Pat out of fear. Do ran or died. A Pat immediately turned around and went. The sick woman gave birth to Mrs. Tran, four legs running to the dead place. In front, behind, a loud bang was heard. The sound of copper chasing after iron notes made Dong Pat not dare to look back. He was like that, his head was shaking and flowing. He determined the direction. How many days ahead there was a red door? He didn't have time to think. He clapped his strength and jumped up to the door, but Du rode inside. He rolled onto the floor, making him cry out. His head was in extreme pain. But at that moment, the feeling of pain was overwhelmed by fear. He ran deep into the outside of the main road. That person didn't jump after him, but ran around the surrounding wall, lean tongue, screamed and embroidered strange sounds. A no-bong was also afraid. In front of him was a kind of light. Morning opened the illusion inside the recitation of the sutras. A few rooms in Tang moment. The calmness had returned somewhat yesterday again, looked at the road ahead black as ink, then looked forward. It turned out he had jumped into the bamboo master. Sister Trung is the owner of the village by the abbot. The general chanting stopped. The shadow of a person standing outside the main people came out. He patted. Who did that bring Mr. Sawback? Here he patted immediately, quickly replied, I am T. Monk. I am the village chief in the writing room next to the deep abbot. Really wanted to go. Pay hot, give it to him, Leave said, really unbelievable. A village school was even more determined that it was the old lady who went. He then immediately answered, fuck, who dares to lie? Why don't you change here? It doesn't dare to go inside. The Buddha's door is a place of purity, love, and ghosts. Of course, I don't dare to go too far, but the Buddha's door is also a place of compassion. As soon as he finished speaking, the monk with big eyebrows stood up and walked out of the porch to the back garden. He hurriedly followed the two people. Kay looked out at the outer wall. There were strange sounds like something was moving. The monk said softly, tonight before he cannot come back then. He sat at the plantation one night. Tomorrow morning we'll find a way to solve the problem. The staff arranged to look after Fook lying right in the civil defense next to Thong lying on the front of the forest. There is Kate clacking next to Hoa Mu dirty fake rich axis onto the gold temple attached Hat Tin. Then the mixed religion K Dong Vu was scared. Cannot by tomorrow, must inform the old man quickly. Find a way to solve the problem the next day. He patted. Hurriedly said goodbye to the monk, quickly turned back, hip neck calculations, still increased beat or outside the water tank as he woke up, patted neck up outside, holding behind. When he told the story, Mr. Vu was extremely remorseful because he did not believe Mr. Tin's words from the beginning. Mr. Tin did not let it go. He thought about it and told me to go to the village chief's house to meet with his grandmother. He was so excited that he rushed to the kitchen to help his grandmother cook breakfast. He heard someone outside the gate and quickly ran out. Mr. Tin filled the room and said, this morning, let's discuss the important matter with your grandfather. Hurry up and go inside the house. Son's grandfather, and after finishing a meal, he saw Mr. Tin and Mr. V walking in. As if he suddenly understood something, he quickly asked after that. This German man really told his grandfather about last night's incident. After listening, he said that fortunately it didn't cause much damage. According to my research, there are some long-term ways that the ancients have passed down. Normally, when talking about ghosts, people think of wizards. However, nowadays, where can you find a high-level magician? So gradually, people still turn to simple but effective measures. First, you have to control it. Next, it can be using herbal incense, burning it near the person's body, or using a haunted object that can be taken with water, clean mixed with alcohol salt, put a little oil to wave on the person who is possessed after finding something for it to stick to. Then it's done. Mr. Tin nodded off, then didn't hear anything with this method. VTN Soydon. Only Mr. C since started to divide the mute army. Now Mr. Truong village, because Hui Dong with Ta Nin Tall asked the most wave gathered together. Prepared to press a few plates to make sure Han M to at 10 o'clock tonight. Focus Trick Village Hall Fake Wrong America Ji Hong Mang Deal Wan. Then Part 2 Hide Creatures become Smash Cargo Market. See a Pot of Oriental Medicine by For him, an herbal medicine that has the property of holding the cold air field. It is like that. They sell it to him now. Go through back son Hamlet to buy a paper temple. He finished taking private money for both of them. Ta nodded and said, yes, let me know these places. Then he finished. He pulled son to run home to get a dress. Both of them long got up and ran out onto the road towards the market. The pond immediately flowed through several neighboring houses to find people. For Mr. Tin's part, he had the task of preparing some offal, pork blood, vermicelli, and the fishy smell of a meat sample. And then Ton and Son returned to the yard and sat in the back of the car, a strange person. Paper on the cart, his VOC, a black plastic bag inside, is some herbs bought from the Oriental medicine store Lee's grandfather. Always father hung on the breathing tube in the evening. Now, just waiting for Mr. Vu's people to finish the ceremony, Mr. Vu ran over to announce that he had found 5 healthy young men from here present. The meeting point in the yard to enter the city X late at night ON begging is also worth it. The 2 old men agreed to let them see him at night. The group of people were present in front of the village hall. Those young men were all 10 waves familiar with the scene. Mr. Vu's house started to adjust his house, said holding things to catch something cheap at this time. When Mr. C since said that, he was hesitant, although he was half believing and not really believing it. But let's try to see how things turned out. The reason why the grandfather gathered near K was because this place was the 2 ends of the wind direction that often blew through here and into the dawn. Mr. Du was a giant with the same idea of life. Dan was all stunned, and then Zhang signaled everyone to get into the gathering position. After that, they waited and waited. Sure enough, less than 5 minutes later, something strange happened. A black shadow quickly turned into a shadow and flowed back to punch the head of the gizzard, looking at it like a child. 10 years old, sometimes running with 2 legs, sometimes bending down with both hands. The whole group of people's eyes were shocked when they saw it rushing towards V-Face and closing Dong and me. Full of young people looking at it, then softly exclaimed because it looked like Silver C. Den died. Mr. C and grandfather were scared. This was the first time they saw a ghost possess the guy. Suddenly, the grandfather gave a signal. The group of people, naturally watching attentively, were also startled. A La Tai Kwong net off their dragon beak Din not Trung, but immediately took down all 5 people, covered to only take the lower edge. But T-Ton and Sun Tin were terrified and saw Ba Si struggling to open her mouth and press the net. A person who liked it, so he swung K to cover his head and panicked. He could not do so, causing damage to the old lady's color. He controlled it and waited. The 5 young men were so cramped that they could not struggle. He rushed forward and wrapped the rope around them. Suddenly, after making sure that the color was controlled, he took out from 2 a basin of opaque yellow water that had been prepared. This was the special Tao Duk water, and because of the rice wine and guava, he opened the degree of dawn on the person up. The old lady immediately screamed in extreme pain, and then he took a bunch of rags and put them on the end of the stick. Then the fire burned and turned into a bright sea. The grandfather walked closer to the rotten color of this rotten thing. He only saw it struggling wildly and badly. He had just embroidered the juice on its head before the water ran out. He pushed the tree down to the ground and grabbed the rotten thing. Then the other K immediately grabbed the rotten thing. Mr. GI suddenly chopped it. Its whole body jerked continuously. From each of its mouths, eyes, and ears, liquid flowed out. Black the thief sprayed the wick of the horror smell in the house. Nin struggled and lay stiffly on a temple, and the patient rolled to one side, becoming a spirit of fear, pointing at the patient's body. Dong here. There are so many piles of patients. The patient is already picky. There is no wind. Noit quickly took the stick and put it in it. The person caught. The main fire was raging, but the fire was extremely eerie and dark, rising up, emitting a pungent smell in the eyes. It inserted a strong piece of paper and blown it away, blowing away the pile and the ashes into the air. The young men's sweat jumped and jumped, their faces swollen to the ground. Everyone looked at the small iron lying in the belt. now emitting a foul stench. They gathered together to live. The next day, the news of the search for the old woman spread throughout the village. It must be said that everyone was surprised. They all went out to the field to see Chuan bury the old woman again. Mr. Vu only vaguely answered Kei Chu Yin when asked for details about the body and the final prognosis. Only a few people could know last night. After reading today's story, I can't say anything more, so I wanted to tell you the story, but I guess I'll have to wait for the next video. For today, I'll stop here. Thank you for listening. Good night for sleep well.